Did you know anyone can be a poet? It's true. If you would like to write some poetry about nature or animals, I'm going to talk about some of the different ways we do that and some of the ways I've done that with kids as young as 3. You see, there's all different kinds of poetry, and you get to decide how many or how few rules you want to have about the way you write your poetry. Poetry is really just all about using our senses. All you have to do is talk about what you see, hear, feel, smell, taste maybe? It's a good idea to write poetry about something that you have personal experience with. So sometimes it's really fun to write poetry while you're doing something or right afterwards when you could remember how everything felt. This could be something as simple as watching the rain fall outside, watching a bird visit your bird feeder, or holding a worm in your hands. The first poem I want to take a look at is one that I wrote about the sea lions at the zoo. Have you guys been to visit the sea lions before? I love watching them swim. I love going inside the big tunnel and getting to see them swim over me. I think it's amazing. So I didn't have a lot of rules when I wrote this poem. It doesn't rhyme. It's just kind of what I noticed and what I think and feel about sea lions.
Sea lions. Swimming, splashing, diving. Wet brown fur in a flash. Playful, curious, upside down. Wish I could swim like that. Now, you might notice that to make this poem, I really just thought about the way that sea lions move and the things I see when I go to visit them. I see them going by in a flash because they're so fast. I see them swimming upside down, and I've seen them be very playful and curious. So I just used the things that I had seen when I visited the sea lions to make my poem.
That type of poem is pretty easy to write. You just look at something and you ask yourself, what do I see? What colors? What shapes? What sizes? What do I hear? Are there any noises? What do I feel? How does this thing make me feel? And what's happening? So if you're watching a worm in your hand, like we talked about before, you might notice that it's wiggling. You might notice that it's dirty. You might notice that it's wet or slimy. All of those things could be lines in your poem. Sometimes it is fun to challenge yourself and write a poem that rhymes. Not every poem has to rhyme, but sometimes it's kind of a fun challenge. I wrote a poem about a tortoise and how it protects itself. Let's take a look at how I made that poem rhyme.
As I read this poem, see if you can hear the rhyming words. The tortoise. Slowly walking through the grass, he needn't really worry, for when he sees a predator, there is no need to hurry. He hides inside his shell so tough that others realize they certainly aren't strong enough to get to what's inside. In the first part, you may have heard the words worry and hurry that rhymed. In the second part, it was a little trickier. I used the words realize and inside. They don't really sound like rhymes, but they have similar sounds. When you write your rhyming poems, you get to decide what you think sounds the best.
If you are wanting to make a poem that rhymes, but you're having trouble thinking of words that rhyme, you can always use something like a rhyming dictionary. If you just search for that on the internet, you'll be able to come up with lots of different words that rhyme, and it might help you think of another line that you can come up with for your poem. Sometimes poems can be about more than one thing. Let's take a look at a poem that our 4 and 5-year-old preschool class wrote about predators and prey.
Predator. A predator eats meat with sharp teeth and sharp claws, grabbing, scratching, biting, tearing, chewing, eating, running to catch their prey. Prey is food for predators, hiding behind a rock, camouflaged, scared, quiet, as still as a statue. Prey. I love that this poem had 2 different ideas. It had ideas about predators and about prey. I love that it doesn't rhyme. It talks about the things they do, like grabbing, scratching, biting, hiding behind a rock. These 4 and 5-year-olds had been studying about predators and prey during their school year, so they already knew an awful lot. What's something you know a lot about?
let's take a look at one more poem that I wrote about monarch caterpillars. Now, I did this one a little differently. It does rhyme, but it rhymes in a different way than the other rhyming poem that we saw.
Monarch Caterpillar. Yellow, black, white, she dreams of taking flight. But first she knows she needs to grow, so milkweed leaves she bites. Did you hear some rhyming words? White, flight, and bite all rhyme, and know and grow rhyme. What do you notice is different about the way this poem rhymes?
One of my favorite parts about writing a poem is getting to illustrate it when I'm done. So if you would like to draw a picture to illustrate your poem, think about some of the things you said in your poem. Think about the way you described the thing that you're writing about and how you can show that in a picture. Now, there are a lot of different ways to write your poem. Some people even write poems in different shapes. So inside this book, Encyclopedia, there are poems and paintings by Douglas Florian, and one of them is about whirligig beetles. You might have seen these guys before. A lot of times they're on the top of the water and they spin around in circles. So their poem about whirligig beetles is written in the shape of a circle. It says, "The whirligig beetles. We whirl, we twirl, we skate, we glide. Upon a pond or lake we ride. We swim in circles like little toys without the wind-up keys or noise." If you are interested in checking out some other poetry about animals and nature, Encyclopedia is a really great book of poems about insects and bugs, and I'd love to show you a couple other books of poetry I really love. This book of poetry is called Hummingbird Nest, a Journal of Poems. The poems are written by Christine O'Connell George, and the pictures are illustrated by Barry Moser. I love this one because it's a whole journal that tells about a hummingbird coming and building a nest, laying eggs, eggs hatching, and it's poems that take you through the whole process of that happening, with really beautiful pictures too. Another great book of animal poetry is Flutter and Hum. These are animal poems that are written in both English and Spanish. These poems are by Julie Pashkis, and they're beautifully drawn. One side has a poem in English, and the other side's in Spanish. But I think my favorite book of animal and nature poetry is actually a book that's a compilation of poems from different authors. That book is called The Tree That Time Built, and it has poems about animals, about nature, about everything. One of my favorites here I'd like to share with you as our last poem is called The Tree That Time Built. It's the same title as the book. And it says, "Do not fret and do not doubt, you are in time, you can't fall out. No matter what you say or do, you are in time, time is in you. And everything that is to be will be in time upon this tree." That's a poem by Mary Ann Hoberman. And I think I really like it, especially right now, when we're all kind of at home and doing things a little differently. It's a nice reminder that we're all in this together. Thank you so much for taking some time to be creative and write some poetry with me. I would love to see what kinds of things you come up with your family. Bye.